Spirit Shroud. I remember when I released my Hex video more than a year ago, a few people then suggested Spirit Shroud, but that's just another trap, and it should be kind of obvious. But maybe it's not so obvious for paladins. So let's make a video. Welcome to Pack Tactics, where my identity is shrouded in mystery. Spirit Shroud. This spell is available to clerics, paladins, warlocks, wizards, and of course all subclasses access to the spell lists of these classes, like Divine Soul Sorcerer. This is a 3rd level spell, it uses a bonus action, and it has a 1-minute duration. Until the spell ends, any attack you make deals 1d8 extra damage when you hit a creature within 10 feet of you. This damage is radiant, necrotic, or cold, your choice. Any creature that takes this damage can't regain hit points until the start of your next turn. In addition, any creature of your choice that you can see that starts its turn within 10 feet of you has its speed reduced by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. Upcast. When you cast this spell using a spell slot of 4th level or higher, the damage increases by 1d8 for every 2 slot levels above 3rd. From a quick glance, this might make you think of something like Divine Smite for any of your attacks, and that sounds pretty cool. However, just like Divine Smite, this spell is a bit worse than many people may believe. This is mostly a spell you use for single target damage. There is this speed reduction, but it's basically useless. It says any creature that starts its turn within 10 feet of you has its speed reduced by 10 feet. But Kobold! It also stops enemies from healing! Well, isn't that just another way of dealing more damage? I'd say it is. If I deal 10 damage usually and they heal 10, but with this spell I deal 20 damage and they heal 0, that means my impact on their health is more than just 10 damage. However, this is not as good as you think it is. The most common occurrence for this part being useful is against enemies with the regeneration traits, a trait that allows creatures to regain hit points at the start of their turn, like vampires for example. There are 66 distinct creatures with this trait. A total of 26 out of 66 of them can't regain hit points if they take radiant damage. And that's literally a thing Spirit Shroud can do. It can do radiant damage if you want. So that part of the feature is kind of redundant there. The other 52 can't regain hit points with some reasonably easy conditions. You don't need to be casting a specific spell to stop it. But obviously, this doesn't make this feature useless. There are also other ways for enemies to get healing outside of regeneration, like healing spells. Though at that point, I would rather spend more resources or pick better options to get rid of the enemy faster. But I'll explain why later. This video is sponsored by Arlex's Magical Item Shipment, where you can get a ton of magic items in these cool little cards. I've already seen a few of them, and I can tell you, I'm very impressed. My favorite one tricks people into roleplaying. It's a hat that gives advantage to persuasion, but if you fail the checks 3 times, then you get a permanent +1 charisma increase. So obviously with that hat, you want to start as much dialogue as you possibly can. It's just super fun. This deck has a total of 60 magic items, and they're all super unique from each other. But that's not all. You can get a crate of cards with 4 copy packs in it, so you can easily share this with your friends or even other DMs. And I gotta say, the guy behind this project is one of the most passionate Dungeons & Dragons players I've ever met. Talking to him, I could tell he's been on an epic adventure. And now he's just making really cool stuff for us in the community. So I highly recommend you check out the Kickstarter. It's just super good. Back to the video. Let me explain why I believe this spell is often not worth casting. There are some assumptions that I need to make to actually math things out, so I hope you're sitting down. First of all, there's a lot of classes and subclasses that can pick up this spell, and I can't talk about literally all of them. So I've decided to only talk about Paladin because they get to make many attacks through extra attack and Polar Master. First, I'll look at Crown Paladin, using the builds template from Tabletop tabletop builds, basic build paladin. And as you can see, here's my assumptions for enemy AC in this picture. Another important thing I haven't talked about is that this spell only lasts 1 minute. Usually I assume 10-minute duration spells can last through multiple fights, but 1 minute is usually just one. It's difficult to precast Spirit Shroud, so that's why I assume you cast the spell in round 1 before you attack. I also assume there will be 4 rounds of combat, so in round 1 you cast Spirit Shroud with your bonus action and attack with your action. Then the remaining 3 rounds you use all your attacks together with Spirit Shroud. The Spirit Shroud average damage that you can see is the additional damage beyond your usual attack. So I'm actually reducing the damage a bit from just normal Spirit Shroud damage, as you are missing out on your bonus action attack in round 1. I'm talking about the Polar Master, by the way. But Kobold, what if my fights always take 10 rounds? Then it would be a bit lower than 8 average damage. So, is this damage any good? No. Here you can see a comparison with Spirit Guardians, a spell that Crown Paladins get access to. Here I assume you cast a spell before combat, but even if you don't, the damage for Spirit Guardians is only slightly lower than that of Spirit Shroud. The thing is, this is Spirit Guardians with only one target inside of the 15-foot radius around you. Imagine the difference if you have more enemies inside. Like, come on. That's why I was saying that removing the ability for enemies to heal is likely not going to be better than just more direct impact. It's funny because Spirit Guardians also slows down enemies. I don't get why they made Shroud worse at single target damage than an AoE spell. You might notice that the basic build Paladin from tabletop builds doesn't really increase their strength. This makes Shroud obviously worse. Fair enough. So here's a version that whenever Charisma would be increased, Strength is increased instead. Your chance to hit is higher, and I increase the chance for enemies to succeed on the saving throw for Spirit Guardians, which makes Spirit Guardians worse. And still, Spirit Shroud is just bad. How? Why? The half on the save part of the spell does a lot of work. I made a video about it. I highly recommend it. It will definitely change how you look at AoE half on the save spells. I decided to look at Spirit Guardians because clerics also get access to both spells, so you can use this information for both classes. However, not all paladins have access to a spell as good as Spirit Guardians, so let's look at Bless too. I assume you target people that do at least baseline damage, which is Hex plus Eldritch Blast. Here's the result, and it's super duper interesting. Spirit Shroud beats Bless damage for a few levels. However, something I didn't tell you yet though, is that this is a first level casting of Bless. Spirit Shroud is a 3rd level spell. Analyzing the spell should be easy for everyone knowing this. I could show you more and explain why Wizard has better options, but I think you already know the answer, especially if you value control spells. And same applies to Warlocks and Divine Soul Sorcerers as well. Don't get me wrong though, there are moments for Spirit Shroud. Maybe your allies are rather weak, so Bless won't add much damage. Or you have a strong magic weapon with a great bonus to hits, like a +3 weapon, allowing you to get your Shroud's damage off more often. At that point, there are moments where the single target Nova damage from the spell could come in handy. Conclusion: Spirit Shroud is rather circumstantial and you don't need to rely on it. End the video. Bonus content, by the way, Siptail Zapper asks, could you do a video about Magic Stone if it's underrated? Then it will be this video. I'll make it super quick. I'll also assume people have read this spell. It's straightforward. You get 3 magic pebbles as a bonus action. If you give them to your 3 tiny servants, for example, then they can all throw the pebbles for you. That's a lot of damage for a cantrip. You can do this with NPCs, skeletons, and so on. You get the point. Check out Arlix Kandrin's Sundries on Kickstarter. I highly recommend it. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye!